Hi everyone and welcome to the new series of Flat Out. From here on in, the world is completely flat. Now that is a conspiracy theory which we won't be completely adhering to, but I'm sure there'll be a few interesting opinions throughout the course of the run that we have through the flat season 2025. You know these two beside me, Jack Nicol and Tom Bull. How are we, Tom?
Very well, yeah. I'm one of those rare commodities, I think, who likes the jumps and the flat, but to be honest, the more I grow older, the more I've started to come round to the flat, really. I've become more of a pedigrees man, more of a breeding man, and there's something about when the sun hits your soul that it's just that time of year, isn't it? Flat racing's back, and I can't wait for this season. I think it looks a cracking season to look forward to.
It really does. It's a great time of the year, Jack. I mean, flat fans, you've had international racing to keep you tipping over through the winter, but there is nothing that quite gets the blood pumping like Guinea's trials and the lead up to the first classics.
Very much so. It's like this time of year, all the bubbles are still intact, all the dreams are still alive, and this is the next month or so is really when the clues are going to get flowing, and it's the best time of the year really for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth noting that we are recording at a time when the season has already begun due to Easter being a little bit earlier. The Lincoln these days, before the Grand National, we've had the Lincoln, we've had the extended Dubai World Cup Carnival, which finished a week later due to Ramadan and was a fantastic World Cup night, which we'll start by touching on. Before we get to the Lincoln, did anything jump out to you from the showpiece meeting over in Meydan?
Yeah, well, I thought it was a cracking evening's entertainment, I have to say, and even though it collided with the Grand National, I didn't think it took away from the meeting at all, and it was a little bit later, wasn't it? So we got to enjoy both. I'd say if there was a horse to take out of it for me, I'd go with Regional. I thought it was a mighty run, his reappearance. We know what he did last season and the season before at the top level in sprinting company, and I thought it was a fine aperitif to what we might expect for the rest of the campaign. Hopefully, a crack at Royal Ascot and the King Charles again will be the aim, because I think that stiff 5 is absolutely perfect for him, and I thought it was a proper eye-catching run behind Believing, who of course went and won, and I think a lot of the people at Highclere might be crying their eyes now that she's finally left them and gone and won a Group 1. It's taken a long time, but she got the job done in the end.
Well, I imagine someone would have maybe a little tear rolling down their cheek that we're recording a week after, because you were hot on Believing going into this.
I was very strong, yeah. Like, how good is it to have, just as well as Meydan, but the Donny to have like competitive racing? For me, it's like your bread and butter, your Monday to Friday. In the jump season, it's just a bit flat and a bit of a damn squid, whereas that's why I prefer the flat, in that through then you get good racing pretty much every day, don't you? But just coming to Believing, I was very strong on her. Regular viewers last year would have known that I tipped her up at every kind of opportunity, and she was done with the draw, and it was just a shame that we weren't starting last week. But no, very strong, and great to see her get a richly deserved Group 1 win.
Was it every opportunity? Did you put her up for every big race throughout
Pretty
the year?
much, yes.
You're a believer.
I was a believer. We spoke before, just before we came on air, and I was at Haydock the day she won there, and she was just so impressive, and I followed her every run since, and she should have won at the Curragh. She should have probably won it in the Nunthorpe as well. And she was just drawn on the wrong side now. I'm glad I kept the faith.
I personally, like Tom, I thought a beaten horse was the most impressive for me, and that was Calandagan, because the task he was set on the Car Barcelona to try and run down those leaders. Angus Monet on the coverage that Racing TV provided, he clocks the Calandagan went under 11 seconds for 3 consecutive furlongs as they were coming into the teeth of the race, which that really gets me excited for the season ahead that they're going to have with Calandagan.
Do we just worry that he's going to be campaigned horribly? Because I just don't see him going to Epsom and suiting that track at all. And I just worry now with Ascot, he was a bit unlucky. He's gone there just on the weekend, been a bit unlucky. And I can see the same happening again, French jockey around Epsom, and we might get that again. But no, he was like, he's one of the standout middle distance performers, obviously no City of Troy this year, so I'm excited to see him. But just coming back to eye catchers from I cannot believe you haven't put Maljum up, Tom. I mean, if there's anyone, viewers on there, Tom is the biggest fan of Maljum. Well, I thought he was a huge eye catcher.
Well, I was the biggest fan of Maljum until he didn't win the St James's Palace Stakes, and then I've sort of slowly hated him ever since. That's a bit strong, but he's not on my Christmas card list. No, I thought it was a real eye-catching run from him. I mean, I feel like he's been a real disappointing horse for the talent that he has. He has an abundance of ability, there's no doubt about that. But it just hasn't really worked out for him. What with injury, he's been really unlucky with injuries in the past. And with certain rides, as he got in the St James's Palace. If anyone gets a chance to watch that race back from a few years ago, St James's Palace that was eventually won by the Godolphin horse, Caribus. He didn't get on the rail. He would have won that easily. And it still pains me, as you can probably tell, to this day. But yeah, I'm with you. I thought he was an eye-catching runner in that race.
If they can sort out his stalls issues, which he broke absolutely fine there on the weekend, he's definitely worth another go at like something like, I don't know, the pre-disband 9 furlongs or stepping up to 10. Tatzel's Gold Cup's quite often a weak enough race, isn't it, for a Group 1 race. So I think they can have a proper go at him. And just watching that, I think he was pretty unlucky. I mean, if you watch it back, he's weaving in and out of rivals and right on the heels of the leaders at the line. So I think...
John.
Sorry, just to say, like, quick rounds are essential to him as well, so possibly not France.
I was going to say, actually, just on Calandigan, actually, Anthony, that given that he put 3 sectionals below 11 seconds there, how did he not win? You know what I mean? Like, they must be so gutted that he ran that well without winning. And even though he didn't win the Champions Stakes at Ascot last season, he was very impressive in the King Edward, wasn't he, before that at Royal Ascot? The ground was quicker that day. I could see him running a mighty race at Royal Ascot once again, and I think it'd be really hard to beat at the top level, either in the Hardwick or the Prince of Wales' route. I mean, he's a proper horse, and I think that track actually does suit him, particularly on quick ground.
Yeah, no shame in finishing second to who he did. The winner was a Japanese Derby winner, and a better place in the race itself. What about Doncaster, though? What really stuck out to you from the Lincoln meeting?
Well, I think you guys are going to talk about the Miler, which I won't mention in a minute, because he was very impressive. But I'll leave that. The one horse that I thought was an eye catcher was a little bit unlucky, and I'm really disappointed because he's actually had a campaign on the all-weather over the winter and done pretty well, is Marshman. And he was given... Well, he had no luck in ride. I don't think he was given a bad ride. He's got no luck whatsoever in the run. And he eventually finished third to Spycatcher. But he came into this with race fitness on his side. And I really fancied him going into the race. I was disappointed he didn't win. I think he might well have won had he got a clear run. But I think in the near future, maybe not towards the rest of the season, like later in the campaign, but at the moment, he is worth keeping on side, because he's got that race fitness, and he might just have an edge on some rivals at the moment. But I think later down the line, he might not. So probably now's the time to catch him.
So early season targets potentially for Marshman. So. Dancing Gemini is very much in that category. Lockinch next after just bolting up in the Doncaster Mile. I would have said entitled to do that. What did you think?
I'd agree with that, yes. I worry he's not going to be quite a tip-top notcher for a Lockinch. But the Milan division is open this year. You've got Rosalian, but he's been off for so long. I just wonder there might be something a bit more to him. Do you know what I mean? They pulled stumps quite early last year, didn't they? So at the moment, to me, he's like the standout horse. But if you look back at Royal Ascot, he only just got up to beat Henry Longfellow. That doesn't look so good in hindsight now, does it either? And the way he won at Donny, I mean, as you just kind of preluded there, he couldn't have been much better. And the way he travelled, I mean, it's always great when you're on them and they're travelling so easily and win like that. And Roger Teal, like he said on Look on Sunday the following morning, like, I want to go there. You've got to really when the winner like that. So I just wonder, I don't think he's going to be a tip-top notcher, I must admit.
Do you think he's absolutely a miler?
I think so. I think that's very much his trip. If you watch his run in the French Guineas last year, and then after that they thought, okay, we'll have go at the Derby, and they never got him back after that, did they? He completely bombed out in the Coral Eclipse, and then he got completely worked up at Goodwood the following day after that. So right through put a line through last year, and I think keep him to a mile this year and see how he goes. But not quite top notch.
Okay.
Because you were really impressed with Dancer Gemini as well, weren't you?
I love him.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I think Roger Teal was so disappointed with how the season worked out, and that's even finishing second in a French Guineas, but basically bookending the season with solid runs, more than solid at the beginning, but a solid run in the QE2. I just don't feel like you had to go for a Derby on his breeding. That didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Likely didn't stay. Well, I don't think he would have stayed, even in this season. I wonder if they might have further options with 10 furlongs. If he was beaten in a Lockinch and fair and square by Rosalian, you could think about maybe potentially playing around with Trip, but they've always loved him. His pedigree suggests he should just get better with age as well. A 3-year-old might have been even a bit soon for him. So we will see. I'm not sure, but the vibes I thought were pretty good in a race that, as we said, entitled to win.
And there's a very obvious path, isn't there, to go down, because Sharon did it last year. So if Roger Teal wants some inspiration, he can just follow in the footsteps.
Exactly. The
Roger
blueprint.
Varian. Exactly.
Yeah, the blueprint has been set. I doubt they'll be going to Japan. However, there are a stack of Group 1s, and he should be competitive in all of them, and maybe just some unfinished business with Goodwood a little bit later on in the season. This brings us on to our section now where we talk about our various horses to follow. Now, a couple of us very much followed the brief and stuck to just picking 2. Now, one of us didn't, and I'll let you guess exactly who that might be. Jack, we'll start with you.
I wasn't sure if we were going to review Donny and Maidan, but I've picked 3 because there were so many to choose from.
Okay.
I've actually just gone for like my once raced or group performers this week, and then we haven't really discussed it, but we're going to do our handicappers to follow in the next episode. So I've stuck to those kind of horses for this week's episode.
Listen, if you can't not pick 3, I'm with bated breath to hear them.
Right.
I'll put them in my tracker. Who have you gone for?
Well, the first one we'll start with, I've left for the best for last. Regular viewers can probably guess who that's trained by, and I've only included him once, only one of his horses. But yeah, we'll start with Kasaya of Andrew Baldwin's, and I think she's like completely under the radar. She hasn't ran since Royal Ascot, so people that are just putting their flat caps back on and probably think, oh yeah, I forgot about it. And you watch back her run, the Queen Mary, it was like Oisin like finished on the bridle. It was just a nightmare for connections. Time before, she absolutely dotted up, still quite green and veering out to the centre of the track, and that was super impressive as well. Of course, we haven't seen her since. There's no guarantee she's going to have trained on. She is a half to Chaldean by Kingman, so it suggests that certainly another furlong at least. She's got brazen speed, so 6 furlongs, you keep her sprinting. And I just see her as a possible for the Commonwealth Cup. Flat out, you boys weren't there, but Joey was with us when we went to see Andrew Baldwin for previewing Glorious Goodwood, and off camera he'd said that Kasaya's his best juvenile. He's really looking forward to seeing her, and for whatever reason she didn't run, so she's obviously quite fragile. She's obviously had a few issues, but I just was reading there in the stable tour, he has included her in that, and he's excited, and he did name check some of the sprinting targets, so obviously logically I think Commonwealth Cup would be the race for her. Possibly wouldn't be one to back first time up with fitness issues not for so long, but I'm really excited to see her again. I think she could be very good.
Who have you got next?
Oh, we're going to do all 3 of them?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this one is one I really do like, and again, he's rated like in the hundreds, but I think in another horse that could have gone under the radar a bit, because we've only seen him on the all-weather so far, and that's Sardinian Warrior for the Gosdens. He ran at Kempton on debut, ran fine, and then he reappeared last year, and he ran 3 times at Southwell, and he's unbeaten in his 3 starts. And he ran first time in April, won nicely enough, but then we didn't see him all summer. Prior to that, though, he obviously picked up another horse with a setback, but he was entered in the Eclipse, which at the time did just pique my interest, because he was impressive when he won that first start at Southwell. So the fact that they were giving him an entry in Group 1s obviously shows you the regard in which he's held, but he didn't come back till the autumn. He ran really well, carrying a penalty, beating a good horse, I think off a mark of 82. So that just shows you from, I think he had about 4 or 5 months off. So that was really good. And then he went and absolutely destroyed on his most recent start, Silver Sword, who's obviously went out and made that. And he's a proper yardstick. So that was 100 plus, and he deserves that raise from a mark of 97 to 107. And I just think he could be the Gosdens like flag bearer this year. And obviously Shootmark was kind of the brunt of what was a poor season for them, really. And I think they're just a stable in transition. I think we've got some really nice horses. Mark is a horse that I was half thinking about putting up their 3-year-old. But I think Sardinian Warrior, he's in the Lockinge, but I think 10 furlongs will be his trip this year. And yeah, I think he could be just under the radar a bit, because he's freely available at 33s for the Lockinge. And yeah, I think 10 furlongs will be his trip this year.
Right, you fought your nature.
Yeah.
Let it flow out for the 3rd one. Who
Right.
have you gone for? Is he from the stable of William Haggis?
He is, yes.
Okay.
Now, I mean, you just have to watch this race back.
Really?
He was one of the biggest eye catchers you could see in any of those kind of big Newmarket novices and maidens at the back end. Trainers are creatures of habit, so obviously I know better than most of kind of how William works and stuff, and yeah, you do have to watch it back. I'm sure we're going to put the replay over this, but the penny's only dropping here in the last 2 furlongs, and he really gets there. On the hands and heels, tender handling, I think if he really wanted to, and if he pick up the stick and you really lift him home, he would have won that. But I don't think the MO is of some of the large horses to have an enjoyable introduction, come on and think, okay, I want to do that next time. So he had his one run on the turf, perfect. He now runs at Newbury on Saturday, and this is a race that Haggis has won with My Prospero and last year with Economics as well. Now, these were both horses that both ran at Newmarket as well, finished 3rd and 4th respectively. So again, he's thinking, okay, this is probably my best 3-year-old colt of the season. And yeah, I can see him on just natural improvement going on from there. He's been put in the Dante and the Irish Derby, interestingly not in Epsom, which suggests maybe he's only going to possibly thinking as a 10 furlong horse.
Economics route maybe of Dante and then not Derby.
Well, possibly, yeah, exactly. So that just was quite interesting to know that he wasn't put in at Epsom, but he is in the Dante. And it'll be really interesting to see how he goes at Newbury on Saturday. But like as I say, you just have to watch that run to know this is a horse that's got a fair bit of ability. I think he's above average, and if he can win here on Saturday and kick on, yeah, possibly another Economics for the stable.
3 good choices. Right, take a break.
Yeah,
and have a bit of water. We don't have any water, but maybe budget wise we might do in a few weeks' time.
Quite warm under these lights.
Yeah.
Tom, who are you going for?
Yeah, that was piping hot stuff from Jack, wasn't it? I've got 2 to follow. I'm going to mention another 2 as well, but very briefly. My main 2, one's a filly called Sandtrap for Rafe Beckett and the team. She's a 3-year-old filly now. Last year in her 2-year-old season, she had 2 starts. She won on debut very easily indeed, where sent off odds on that day. We know what Rafe Beckett did with his juveniles last year. I mean, so many of them were sent off favour, weren't they? But this one looked properly above average. That was on good to soft ground at Salisbury in what was a decent maiden, Class 2 maiden. And she went to Deauville in Group 3 company in October, right at the back end, and finished a good second, but it was heavy ground, and I really didn't think that's what she wanted at that stage of her career. And what really drew me to her is that Rafe Beckett said after that Deauville performance that she's only going to get better next year. She's all about a 3-year-old campaign. She's going to strengthen up loads. Her pedigree suggests that, and they've got lots to look forward to. Now, she's a 33-1 shot for the 1,000 guineas. She's entered up in Group 1s. I'm hoping we're going to see her fairly soon. She's not entered up immediately or imminently, but fingers crossed she can go on.
I was just reading earlier that she's had a bit of a setback and she's a bit behind in her code, so I doubt we will see her for the Guineas, but possibly Royal Ascot.
Well, that makes sense. Thanks for letting me know about that little thing you just
Sorry,
Well, actually, you're in good company. That's the same for one of my ones.
Okay, there you go.
But carry on.
Anyway, that is obviously a bit of a shame. I've only just found out that she might be going to the Guineas.
Your instant reaction.
Yeah, my instant reaction. However, she no doubt will be a force to be reckoned with in some of the big 3-year-old races later down the line. So I'll stick by her. Shame she had a setback though, because that's a bit disappointing.
Hey, it's a long season.
She's just she's just not winning very well. I think she's a bit behind in her code and stuff.
Okay. My other one to follow, because we want one that's going to appear hopefully soon, is Zeus Olympius, trained by Carl Burke. Now, he won his debut at Kempton. Anthony and I have been at Kempton and Chelmsford throughout the winter months at various different meetings. And although sometimes we complain about it, it might be a bit cold, might be a little bit wet.
Speak for yourself. I love it.
You love it.
Yeah.
We do see some good horses there.
You do?
We do. Yeah. And Zeus Olympius, I think, was one. He appeared in end of January, in a novice over 7 furlongs and was as green as the grass that is present all around Ealing. He was just so babyish, didn't know what was going on, raw as you like, and he stayed on really strongly to eventually win in the closing stages, beating off Chemical, who's not particularly strong yardstick, but it was all about a learning experience, and he got that win on the board That was over 7. For all the world, he looks like he wants a mile. Pedigree suggests that as well. And it's the pedigree really that drew me to this horse in the first place, because he is, I think, arguably the best named horse I've ever seen. He's called Zeus Olympius. His dad is Knight of Thunder, and his mum is Rhea, who in Greek mythology was the mother of Zeus. I mean, it doesn't really get better than that, I don't think. And pedigree-wise, it's glorious as well. Quite a strange one in the fact that his dam, Rhea, is actually a half-sister to a 2.5 mile chase winner. Large action, who I'm sure most of you will know. So that's quite an interesting quirk, but he does look all speed, and I think a mile's going to be suitable for him. But he really impressed me how green he was that day. He was sent up a short price, 7-2 so clearly been working well at home. And although Carl Burke has got a whole kind of host and smattering of jewels at his disposal, no doubt, for the rest of the season, I was really taken by him. And then just a couple more to mention, not proper in depth, but Swelter won the Priory Bell at Leopardstown, one of the first days of the season. That was just a couple of weeks ago. On their big kind of trials, classic trials day. I thought she was really impressive over 7 furlongs. She's going to step up to a mile in the Irish 1000. I thought that was very taking, and she's still unbeaten, 2 from 2 now. And the other one I think to keep on side is Arizona Blaze, because he ran a mighty race over a trip that didn't suit. It was 7 furlongs. Eventually Henri Matisse won, but dropping back to a sprinting distance is really going to help him. He's absolutely pacey. We saw that in the Breeders' Cup last year, and I think it could be a proper Commonwealth Cup this year, really competitive, and I expect him to play a big part in that. So there's 4, but 2 main ones, I said earlier.
Lovely, really nice selections from both of you. I'm hoping to carry on in the same thread. The first one is a horse whose name I keep forgetting, so we're starting off really well.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure it's Falling Snow, who you're talking about nicely named horses. Well, in terms of nice pedigrees, I don't think you'll find a much nicer one in the UK or Ireland at the moment. Dad Justify, Dan Winter.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
And she is jet white as well. We've only seen her the once, and that was at the Curragh, where she beat Ballet Slippers, who Aidan O'Brien has given very favourable mentions to, as you would expect. It's the beginning of the season. They're all regally bred horses. You would expect that he would be giving good mentions. But he also did mention that Donica loves his, that beat ours. And it was just the way that in that race, it was a warm enough conditions race, that had been won by Hydrangea, amongst a few others, Cordica Joe as well, who've gone on to bigger and better things. And they were 1-2 all the way, and it looked for all money like Ballet Slippers was just going to have too much. But Falling Snow, despite a little bit of greenness and being a frame of a horse as well, she managed to get past, and I was really impressed with that. Now, I think that was over 7 furlongs. I think a mile, 10 furlongs should be absolutely no problem given her pedigree. And I think there's a bit to like. I think she could be the best progeny that Winter has produced so far. She's had a few. They haven't set the world alight. They have been winners though, and she followed suit. And I think she might be able to just go that little bit further. And the second one is a horse who I'm still scratching my head as to how she isn't unbeaten. She is also in the same division, and that's Zarinaya, I believe she's called, the Francis Henri Graffard Aga Khan horse who was chinned on
Zaragana, is that?
That's it.
One, yeah.
Thank you. Zaragana. I'm watched that race back. I'm still not exactly sure how it happened.
Mental, wasn't it?
Vertical Blue, her stablemate, put in the performance of her life. A handy enough filly in her own right. She just hadn't shown it at this point. And I feel it was just heads up, heads down, and unfortunately she just got lost the bob on the nose. But everything prior to that had been really impressive. She'd broken a maiden at the first attempt on Bastille Day at Chantilly. Then she went to the traditional Marcel Boussac trial, the Prix d'Aumale, which she made a mockery of. It was so easy for her. And I'm hoping that when she gets access to good fast ground, not a typical route for a French filly or given her breeding, but like all of the Aga Khan horses, she's impeccably bred. They're all bred to be superstars. And I think she could be the latest of them. I really, really like her. And the pedigree suggests that 3-year-old season should be the making of her. So,
I think you make a really good point there, Duncan, actually, about that. And just on her, an interesting story that you might find amusing is that when I went to see Graffard on that little Chantilly trip, it was great fun. And I mentioned Zaragana to him. And she'd just been done about, I think, a week or two before. And I said, I brought the name up, and he goes, oh. And I said, you still won the race with Vertical Blue? And he goes, oh, well, yeah, but he clearly wanted Zaragana to win it. And I think he genuinely couldn't believe that she got beaten.
well, fingers crossed he won't have too many more of those occasions, and she just goes unbeaten this season.
Exactly.
Leash, Deanne, reel them off, and then culminate in an arc. That'd be nice.
Yeah, and to be fair, he started off the season flying, hasn't he, Graf?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
many wins already. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, he had, I think, 4. Was it 4 in a day? The other day?
Yeah, I think Saint-Cloud maybe or something like that. But it was unreal.
Fantastic. Right, fingers crossed. Those are some real horses to follow for the flat season. We're now going to take more of a general look at the Jockeys Championship, which is usually, this isn't a particularly interesting discussion at the beginning, because Oisin Murphy is going to put his head down and he's just going to ride as hard as he can all the way through, and like last season, pick up and build a really impressive portfolio and win it by 50. That might not be the case this year. He hasn't made any commitment to that. He is not the current favourite. It's actually Billy Loughnane and Ross O'Ryan who is sharing the spoils. Do you see that?
Well, I had to look up this morning who won the Jockeys Championship. Like, I couldn't even remember. Like, nobody can.
I mean, it'd be a safe enough guess, though.
But I yeah, exactly. It's either him or Buick, isn't it? But I did find an article that lost in the winter finals that Murphy did come out and say he's not going to pursue it this year. He's going to go for foreign targets and whatnot, a bit like probably Buick did last year. So it probably does then come down to the stands of next in line Ross O'Ryan, then Billy Loughnane. I think the interesting one below that, potentially, if he wants to go for it, is Mark Wand. Haggis probably just doesn't have the numbers to get him there, but he was next in line in the stands, so around 7-1 I think he was in the bet. I know it's not a punting question you're asking here, but I think it would be between one of those three to win it, and it probably will be between Loughnane and Ross O'Ryan. My preference would probably be for Ross O'Ryan, in the expectation of a big year ahead for Beckett, and he's going to have big numbers, isn't he, after such a good 2024.
And I guess if you are in pole position just before or just after Goodwood, your agent will be able to get you these rides that usually you wouldn't be expecting to get.
I'm not sure who Ross O'Ryan's agent is. I think it is Tony Hines. So to have him like an agent like that, but I think, as you say, in general, any agent's going to be, knocking on the door of any trainers, and I think that's probably what I'd like more so about Ross O'Ryan. He rides for so many. I know Beckett's his main, but you look down at kind of all his rides last year, and he's got a lot of trainers that will get behind him if needed.
Speaking of trainers, are we associating the start of the season with any trainer in particular? I'm not really sure of a name that I could go, oh yeah, the first month of the season, I'll back them blind. It feels like that doesn't happen as much anymore. I don't know what you think.
Well, I can't really think of one at the moment. Dylan Cunha's had a good couple of weeks, but he wouldn't be one that I'd be saying,
back and blind.
Exactly, yeah. I'm just trying to have a think about who's...
Yeah, maybe 10 years ago, you think. Yeah. Hugo Palmer, Richard Hannon, always have them revved for right up to kind of the Guineas weekend. But I wouldn't say so much nowadays. No. Certainly since Palmer's left Newmarket anyway.
Yeah, it's more of a jumps thing, isn't it, these days?
Yeah.
You get the Longstons and stuff like that. You start off quickly. Yeah, I wouldn't have... And they've been... Obviously, trainers have been good form in the weather over the winter, but they always are. The likes of Appleby's and Carroll's. And that's just the same as it always has been.
Absolutely. Yeah. Breeding-wise, are there any progeny of a particular side you're particularly looking forward to? For me, it would be Gaiath, who, the back end of last season and the beginning of this, he's had winners everywhere. The UK, Ireland, even as far and wide as Saudi Arabia. He had a filly that bolted up by 11 lengths on debut. I can't wait to see what his 3-year-olds are going to be going for.
On my notes here, I've got a guy I've written down as well.
Amazing.
I remember the back end of last season saying to Tom, like, oh, have you had a look at these Gaiaths? And, oh yeah, he hasn't had too many. And he hasn't. But I think he, just looking for, I wrote out, he's only had 13 or 14 individual winners so far, which isn't many. But you wouldn't expect that from Gaiath from his first crop. There wouldn't be 2-year-olds. But in amongst them, Opera Ballo.
Oh, yeah.
Gethin was really impressive. Alibi, the filly of Haggis's at Yarmouth, she was really impressive. And then a horse like Stanhope Gardens as well. I think he's rated 111. He was second to Delacroix, was he? So there's just 4 names in amongst those winners that he's had. I mean, when you have quality like that, it bodes well for horses going into the 3-year-old season this year. So I very much back up what you say about Gaia.
And as we have to touch on whiz-bang 2-year-old speed sires, the likes of A. Ali, who had just had his first winner yesterday with Ali Shuffle up at Redcar, and Starman as well, had made quite a strong start, a winner, and a couple of good runs from horses that weren't expected to make impact on debut. He could be a very interesting one for this season.
Absolutely, I think the winner was at Dundalk, was it?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Charles
that was
Collin
impressive.
King,
Yeah. it'll be interesting, and he's going to have the numbers, isn't he? And I think that is for the first season side. It is a bit of a numbers game. So Starman would definitely be up there. Ali, as you mentioned as well. But I love Starman during his racing days, and it'd be great to see him for. I don't know if he's been stood by the owner. I don't know if he's been
David
sold.
Ward.
Yeah, I was spoken to George Baker there last week, and he said he sent a load to obviously Walker as well, but send them all around. So it'd be great for an owner like him as well to have a good career as a stallion too.
Absolutely. It'd be remiss of us to record this podcast at the beginning of the flat season and not touch on the first pivotal weekend of it, and that is the first classics of the year. Where exactly does this rank in the season for you? I think in terms of excitement, it's right up there. It can't be anything else. I'm almost more of a Guineas man than I am Derby Oaks at this point.
Yeah, I'm sort of coming round to that way of thinking actually, and I love the fact now that we do see some decent horses on the away. The notable Speech, of course, last year, Opera Ballad this year, and a couple of others as well. They'll be lining up hopefully, and we'll have the trials coming up for the next couple of weeks too. It really does kind of set the path for racing. Lincoln is a little bit earlier this year, so you get that time to really get excited about the really good horses, and you get the quotes from the trainers. I agree, it's a really exciting time, and for all that Aidan O'Brien has pretty much ruled out the line of winter from the Guineas, I don't think it's too big a shame because he's got so much strength and depth. He's still going to send a couple probably. Twain looks like he's going to go there, maybe expanded. I think that race looks hot. I do, and I think for some reason the last kind of couple of years I've come more and more around to the flat. And I think it might be due to the fact that the Guineas just sets the pulse racing for the season.
And I always find at this time of the year, it's hard to be completely, unless you have an Antepost ticket, it's hard to be completely bullish about a horse from week to week because trials happen. You look and think, oh, that horse has trained on it. He's unlucky in that trial and maybe he's overpriced going in for the big one. I find it very hard to just say, yeah, Guineas winner, 2,000, 1,000, there's the double.
Well, it's funny you should mention Andy Post Office because I've got two.
Oh, great.
And they're still alive as yet, but certainly my confidence in the last sort of month or so has waned a little bit because my main fancy was expanded. But all these stable tours have kind of come out in the last sort of 3-4 weeks, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a shame that I thought he would, given what he did within the space of a week at the back end.
On the track as well, and he's shown that he can act in the dip. I thought, that's going to be their number one. And I feel like Twain was kind of almost number 3 in the list. Obviously, Lion and Winter hadn't been ruled out at that point. So the fact he went and won abroad, I thought maybe they'll. Sorry, he did go to France.
Yeah.
I'm confused. He went to Leopardstown, and then a week later he did. Yeah. So I thought maybe he'd be their French horse. Lion Winter does always shape like he's going to be their main Derby, fair enough. And I just thought absolutely expanded. He's been on the drift since that news kind of came out, the Sport and Life Racing poster. We're going to maybe have Twain and possibly expand, but it didn't sound too positive. Look, it's kind of come about in the last few years. I don't know if you agree with this, but it almost City of Troy, who's his only runner, that he doesn't matter so much about the Guineas.
Can you name his last Guineas winner? Open question for you as well.
Aidan O'Brien?
Yeah.
Magna Grecia, was it?
It was.
Yeah.
That was 2019. Since the pandemic,
amazing,
he
isn't
hasn't
it?
won the Guineas. But every season, or at least the last two, whether it was Auguste Rodin and his sprinter,
Little Big Bear,
who both went in at opposite ends of the scale and both blew out, and City of Troy last year.
Henry Longfellow went to France and had an absolute nightmare as well, and he was maybe left him a bit short. I remember him saying after.
What do you think Henri Matisse is going to do out of interest? Because he's a fascinating runner, isn't he, if he does go?
For me, personally, I'm not sure if I would even bother with the Guineas. The race for him, I think, is the St James's Palace. Got to keep him round a bend, quick round. I mean, how impressive he was to win that race in the Breeders' Cup. I think the closest you're going to get to that really is Ascot, isn't it? But I guess you're going to have to run him. He was like...
He's France or Britain all over us, and he's got to get French Guineas.
If it comes up soft...
Well, true.
That would be my worry. You kind of thought he would go Newmarket, wouldn't you? But I almost...
Well, only because after the race, that was the immediate reaction of both Gary and Don who were there, and I think that was mooted on track as well, so that was the only reason I thought that. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's a merry-go-round as it currently stands.
And then we can't forget about other horses like Camille Pizarro. Now, he's the horse I think they would have to France, having won there at the back end last year. And he obviously goes in the soft ones.
Keep Sumion on him?
Probably, yes. He's the one who found the key to him. So, well, I don't know what Ryan Moore would say. I wouldn't mind putting Ryan on. He is the best. So.
If you're talking O'Brien contenders for the Guineas, then Joseph with Scorthy Champ, I think has got a live.
You
contender.
like Scorthy
I really
Champ,
like him. Yeah, I really like him. With 7 furlongs that he ground down on him at East in the National Stakes last season, and that was on the back of being beaten by him at the same track before that. I think he was learning, and he stuck out the 7 really strong. He was a really tough victory. If you watch that back, he was really plucky, and stepping up to Mile is going to be absolutely ideal for him. One slight concern is that I don't know if he's going to go to Newmarket. I hope he does. I do think he'd be exactly the kind of horse who would love the Irish Guineas at the Curragh. I think that would really suit him because he's got form at the track already and he'll stay the trip really well. But I hope he does go to Newmarket. He's a horse that I really like, and Joseph can just do no wrong in my eyes. And the man's a complete genius. I think he's the best trainer in the world.
Bold claim. And on episode 1 of Flat Out 2025, you've got
Well,
something to live
do
up
you know
to.
what? Though? I say best trainer in the world because he can do it in both codes.
It's true. You can't do it all.
Yeah.
You send him a Clydesdale, he'd probably find a race.
Exactly, yeah. You get a
Greyhound.
Shetland
Yeah.
handicap for me or something.
Yeah. Any potential for the 1,000? Did you say you do have a?
I just want to mention Ruling Court as well.
Okay.
He was so impressive there in Maidan, and I know the vibes after immediately as well that, this is going to be the Derby horse, but they have since lost Ancient Truth, so I don't know if that might change the plans. Shadow of Light, in my mind, wouldn't stay a mile in the horse box. So
Yeah, I don't fancy him for a Guineas.
No, not at all.
Top rated
Like
in the
it-
European classifications, but
it was a stretch to put him up to 7. So
Are they definitely going to run him?
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think you kind of have to.
But
don't you?
in
Just
my
to-
mind
yeah.
now, how impressive was Ruling Court? That you've got some of the best 2-year-old form running at York. I know he was beaten there, but he's shown that he's trained on with that performance. That was a mile. There's no real reason to go up yet. I mean, I'd be running him. I'm obviously a bit biased in saying that, having backed him prior to that run in the Acom, but he's my strong fancy with the Derby as well. Justify, that's going to be fine on breeding with City of Troy last year as well. But he's got brazen speed to win over a mile. I was really impressed with him. He's going to be fit and well, and it does look like a race that could cut up. If Aidan does think, okay, we'll send it expanded to the Irish version. As we know, Scorthy Champ isn't a guaranteed, and then Godolphin only have their one runner in Shadow of Light, so I don't see why you wouldn't run Ruling Court. But I don't know. That's me saying with a docket, and he's a shorter price. He was about 8 to 1 when I backed him. He's 11th now, so it's not a trumpet, but I just think I wouldn't rule him out if you're wrong. I think he's a very good call, and I think he is actually Godolphin's best.
Very talented,
I really
horse,
do.
for sure. I am interested to see what they want to do with Opera. It feels like he was following that route through that was tried and tested with notable speech. But when you've got the Shadow of Light, whatever your opinion of him is, he is still the top rated in the European classifications on 120. Ruling Court, you've got a horse who was already proven as a 3-year-old and fitness on his side. That doesn't mean anything in the context of going, but he has ran as a 3-year-old and been wildly impressive. I half wonder if they might white cap him in the Guineas and see exactly what he's able to do, and hope it's not just too much for him. I don't know.
Well, interestingly, on the Friday Club we did recently, William Buick was interviewed by Martin Dwyer and was asked about Opera Ballo in comparison to Notable Speech, and William Buick said he's a fantastically good horse, Opera Ballo. He said he's not Notable Speech.
Yeah,
That's the slight caveat. I think he doesn't think he's possibly
You got
quite
the distinct feeling that he's
he's not quite as good. And also, you've got to remember as well what Notable Speech did last year, coming off the weather and winning at Guineas, is a remarkable feat. He was a top class horse. You saw that, of course, in the Sussex Stakes. But you do have to be that good to be able to do that. I'm not sure he's going to be.
I got the vibe as I was there for his debut where he was odds on, and he bolted up like the rest of them weren't there. And even then I asked Billy Loughnane, is this a horse you could immediately put into a better race, not one you'd back up under a penalty, and to give him more experience. And he would need more experience. So it might just be that he's not like Notable Speech in that Notable Speech didn't need to back up under a penalty, but it was just nice to know what they had and just to teach him more. He might just be winning. It looks like he's winning with the need for more education. He's winning on talent.
He's winning on talent. He looks raw. Yeah, he does. Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to see what he does, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, same. And then you've got to mention Cosmic Year, Field of Gold. We haven't mentioned any of these horses.
Hopefully Cosmic Year will win at short price. Time of recording, he's running tomorrow, I think he can. So.
How strange is that they do that? Does that strikes as a negative to me. Why would you do that?
It wouldn't be a positive for me.
No.
As opposed to running him in a proper trial.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I agree. It does seem a bit strange. I guess if you want to have experience at a slightly shallower level, it suggests that you don't think he's quite capable of putting up to the big boys just yet. That would be my reading into it.
Exactly.
Or maybe you'd be concerned that putting him into that scenario at this stage wouldn't be the best thing for his career. But that in turn would suggest that 2,000 guineas is probably not on the table.
Yeah, I mean, if they're thinking that, he's not going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back to the 1,000. Did you say you've had a bet?
Not on the 1,000. It's going to be really boring, but the way it's kind of cut up now with the O'Brien filly as well coming out, but the Godolphin filly does a flower. It's such a cliche as it probably just wins. It's really hard to see beyond that yet. But now that's a race that you'd probably want to have a look at the trials. One of Beckett's I quite like, Chantilly Lass. Lace. Is it Chantilly Lass or Chantilly? So I've watched some of the interviews back.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'll grant you that. It's tricky in this case.
So I wanted to say Chantilly.
It should be Chantilly, but a lot of people say Chantilly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, is it a reference to the
song? No, yeah, I assume it must be.
Yeah, I guess so.
Beckett wasn't so positive in terms of another like Sandtrap who's going to be out in the early part of the season. She would be one of the horses that I'd be really looking forward to. I thought she was really impressive to beat the Colts and Geldens, but it doesn't look like she will turn up in the 1,000.
Talking of Beckett fillies in that race, Bright Times Ahead goes to the Fred Darling at the time we're recording this weekend, and she's around about 10-1 I think for that, but she did win very easily on her debut, one of many who did last year for Beckett, but she's worth keeping an eye on because she looked good that day, and she's clearly one of the brighter fillies that Beckett's got in his armoury, along of course with Sandtrap.
He mentions it in his Racing TV flat horse to follow on the racingtv.com website. He mentions it here. We get it. You like Sandtrap.
And she's had a setback, so it's not even a great tip anyway.
No, she's just not come to hand quite as quick.
Exactly.
But she is a tail swisher, so
that's you can't just chuck that in at the end.
I'm not a fan, I must say.
She's only had 2 starts, though.
Yeah.
And she could easily get rid of that as a 3.
Sea of Class was a tail swisher, and look what she did.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Look, we could go on for hours. At this point of the flat season, in its infancy, there's so many horses to talk about, and hopefully we will get to the majority of them as the campaign progresses. Looking forward to where exactly we are in about a month's time, but for now, any other business?
Just to mention, Crown and Oaks does run at Newbury on Saturday, so I have no idea what price he might be at this stage. We're recording Tuesday evening, so he is dropped up, so I expect him to run. So I'll be very strong on him if he was a price. I know you can't quantify what a good price is at the moment, but yeah, he's the one horse I'm most looking forward to this season.
Any other business, Tom? Shout outs, perhaps? Happy birthday messages?
No.
Or just your cameo?
I'm just going to say, Anthony, bring it on, because I can't wait. Let's get going. Let's get the group horses out on the track.
Exactly. I can't wait either. The 3 of us are champing at the bit for the flat season ahead. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.